Today, I'd like to tell you about a unique multidisciplinary course which I've been teaching for the past 2 years on technology and the future of medicine. And what is remarkable about this course is not so much the content or the experience of the students or the faculty, but the way in which it causes one to rethink what medicine is. Through teaching this course, I have come to regard medicine as being much more than just about disease. It is also, and will increasingly be, about human enhancement, not only physical enhancement, but also moral and spiritual, and improvements in society that promote health and well-being. So the experience of teaching this course about where technology is leading medicine in the future has led me to the inevitable conclusion that the influence of medicine on society is going to grow tremendously in the next 30 years. Now let me give you some background and some history of how I came to these surprising ideas. I've always been interested in technology and the future of medicine and what the confines of medicine are. When I came to Canada a quarter of a century ago as the chairman of pathology at the University of Alberta, an important part of the negotiation at that time was the purchase of 2 fax machines, one for my old office at Johns Hopkins and one for my new office here at the University of Alberta. So the old team and the new team could stay in contact. And this focus on technology has remained then, since that time, 1987. When I got to Canada, I discovered something really quite shocking, which was that laboratory physicians and pathologists had no political clout whatsoever. And they didn't seem to care. They said, "Who has time? We don't know anything about politics. Politics has nothing to do with us." And I said, without politics, you're never going to be counted. You're never going to have impact. So you need to have profile and impact. And so we started something called the Future of Pathology Lab Medicine in Canada Consortium. And over 4 years then, we had a series of meetings in Mississauga, Ontario, where we generated consensus about how we could raise our profile, how we could have people take notice of us, how the general public could learn what pathologists and laboratory physicians do and what their importance is. And in 1994, we had a final report, and that report was the first ever website that I created on the then just developing World Wide Web. And in that project, the use of cutting-edge communication technology was absolutely crucial to the success of the nationwide consensus generation that we were engaged in. The website still exists, you can still see it. Proof, if any was needed, that pixels never fade. Still there 2 decades later. But at the same time, I became involved in another consensus generation project that became much better known and had much greater impact. And this had to do with the Banff classification, the Banff consensus process, that became the worldwide standard for the way solid organ transplant biopsies are read. That is heart, lung, liver, kidney, pancreas, small bowel, and composite tissue graft, and maybe some other solid grafts that will come to be transplanted. So we meet every 2 years. I lead those meetings which fine-tune and extend the classifications in these various organs. Now, how do you do that? How do you bring people together worldwide? How do you create a standard that they all agree upon? You have to have good communications. You have to have a good spirit. You could not maintain this without the very best in technology. And there was a third project that also involved the generation of consensus and the use of technology, and that had to do with our institution's involvement in a new medical school in Kathmandu, Nepal, devoted to rural health, Patton Academy of the Health Sciences. So with those three initiatives then, I became interested in teaching a course about technology and where it was leading medicine in the future. Technology and the future of medicine. And so 2 years ago, we began putting together such a course. And it is truly multidisciplinary, probably beyond anything you ever imagined. We have lawyers, business people, artists, people from every walk of life, people from age 17 to 77 taking part in the course. And the diversity is also reflected in the fact that we have both technology advocates and technology skeptics. Now, if you think about that for a few seconds, if the course is worth anything, then the technology advocates don't remain pure and the technology skeptics don't remain pure. There should be a mixing and gradual change of opinion over the 2 years, and indeed it's been very exciting to see that happen. The other thing that's quite exciting to see happen is people from very different walks of life, different faculties, entirely different vantage points, coming to the same startling conclusion about things. Like the idea that mitochondria were probably originally a parasitic infection of cells. Another very surprising thing is if you think in your mind of those jobs in society that you believe will be the last to be replaced by machines, some of our lecturers have suggested those will actually be the first. If in your imagination you picked psychotherapy, you'd be surprised to know how successful today the psychotherapy software programs are. And depending upon what your problem is and how private it might be, you might be very much more comforted by a software psychotherapy program than a human being. That is just one of many surprises. Now, a key element that we talk about in the course has to do with existential risk. The fact that technology could move in some sort of malignant way where it could possibly wipe out all of our species. But we also talk about the opposite, that there could be a wonderful world of abundance and post-scarcity brought about by technology. Probably those two are equally possible, or maybe the post-scarcity abundance is more likely than the technology wiping out all of mankind. We have lectures about such things as artificial intelligence. We have 4 lectures on that. That if you begin in the course knowing nothing about it, those 4 lectures give you a very adequate grounding in that subject. We have lectures about nanotechnology. We have lectures about biotech. We have lectures about ethics in the future. And some of those titles might intrigue you. Some of the lecture titles are, Is Evil a Treatable Disease? And Medical Ethics After the Robots Take Over. Now let me tell you a little bit about after the robots take over. That's something quite specific. That's called the Technological Singularity, and it's predicted to occur 32 years from now in 2045. You will all be around. I believe every one of you will be around 32 years from now. And some of you may not think so, but you don't know what's happening with longevity. And so at that time, machines will be smarter than we are, and they'll be able to self-improve more quickly. They will be able to evolve much, and so not only will they be smarter than we are at that time, but they will become much, much, much smarter than we are very soon thereafter. And we can only understand what's going on in the world and have some influence over it if we merge or cooperate with those machines in some way. Well, that's a shocking idea. And if that idea is true, there should be some things happening right now that give us a clue to this future supremacy of machines, the idea that machines will indeed be smarter than we are soon. And indeed, there are 4 things that have happened. The first of these was that on the cover of Time magazine in February 2011, there was the Technological Singularity. 2045, the year man becomes immortal. This was the first time the idea of the singularity had ever appeared on the cover of a major news magazine. And in the same month, in February 2011, on the TV game show Jeopardy, a computer, Watson, beat the top human contenders. This wasn't just a fluke, wasn't just an accidental thing. The computer played over 3 days. It got progressively better over those 3 days. By the 3rd day, it was clear that not only had it beaten these 2 top contenders, it could now beat any human contender. From this moment onwards, computers are better than human beings at the game of Jeopardy, as they already are at chess and checkers and many other things. And then last year, in November 2012, in China, the Foxconn company that makes your iPads, iPhones, iPods, those things that many of you have in your pockets sitting in these seats, that company decided to replace 1 million workers with 1 million robots. This wasn't some sort of long-range future plan. It was a plan right now. They've already replaced about 100,000. It's a real thing. And finally, this year, in March of 2013, for those of you who still read the funnies in the paper, the technological singularity was in Dilbert. Not subtle, I mean, the word was there, everything about it was there. The idea of machines being smarter than we are, the whole deal was in Dilbert. So there are signs that this is happening. It's a real thing. And you can imagine, with a controversial idea like this, that there is great value to the fact that we have technology skeptics and advocates in this active exchange of ideas between them. One of the most dramatic things that happens in the course, because we have these high-quality videos, somebody who's been on video strongly supporting something comes back now and their ideas have changed, and it's only been 2 years. It's really remarkable to see that kind of thing happening. It's moving. It's what would be expected of a course that's high-impact education in the sense of changing human behavior. Not just changing knowledge base, but changing behavior. That's what we're doing. Okay, but now am I hiding something from you? Is the name of the course wrong? Absolutely not. I think what I've discovered, as I said in the beginning, is that medicine is something much broader than we think, particularly when we think about the future. A possible utopian future is that we get rid of all the diseases we know now. If that happens, physicians still have a tremendous amount to do. Think of the area of human enhancement. There is no limit to what human beings might want in terms of human enhancement. Physical enhancement, moral, spiritual, you name it. And then changes in society, there also is no limit there to the changes we might make to promote health and well-being. Okay, well, right about now, you might be thinking, what authority does this guy have to be making all these assumptions about medicine being so big? Well, luckily for me, one of the most famous physicians to ever live, Rudolf Virchow, 165 years ago, held exactly the same view of medicine being so gigantic, so broad, that I'm now expressing to you. What's amusing about this quote, many of you may have seen it, with a picture of Rudolf Virchow as an old man with a gray beard. He did live to be quite an old man, but he was 27 when he wrote these words. I don't know how many of you are 27 or recently been 27 or going to be 27, but I find it exciting that he was 27 when he wrote this. Now that may look to you like he's letting the physician off the hook, but he wasn't, you see, because he was a triple threat guy. He was also a very successful statesman and politician, and he started a new field of anthropology. So when he talks about those three things, he doesn't mean three different people. He means one person can do it all because he did it all. Now in the same year, still at the age of 27, he wrote this. So this is the idea of the social responsibility of medicine. And there are two ways to think about this. If this large concept of medicine, which I have proposed to you and which Virchow proposed 165 years ago, if this is what medicine should be, then medicine cannot be just one self-interested financial silo competing with other self-interested financial silos. It must be an overarching force for good with broad humanitarian aims. And the moment we begin to seem selfish, then we are not worthy of that large concept of medicine. It not only affects what we do within medicine, it also affects the training of future doctors in medicine. It means that we have to give them humanistic aims. We have to impress on them what society needs in a broad sense that goes way beyond disease. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have been stimulated by this broader concept, maybe broader than you ever conceived of in your life, of what medicine can and should be and will increasingly be in the future. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you today.